Hello BookTube, my name is Dan, welcome to my channel, and today let's talk giant apes. This is the celebration of Giant Ape-ril. Giant Ape-ril is an event that was created by Roy at the channel Roy Reads Anything, and this month, probably because of the pun, we are exploring King Kong and the King Kong derivatives, not only in literature, but also in other media like the films and whatnot. This event has come to me at the right time. This month has been just incredibly rough on me, and sort of feeling a little down and isolated lately. And so a shot of nostalgia is really what the doctor ordered. So I am very happy to have participated in this event, and I just want to show you the things I've done to participate in this event. And the first thing I wanted to do, before I got to the novelization of King Kong, I couldn't remember if I'd seen the original. So I watched King Kong, and since I got this collection, I also watched The Son of Kong. And it turns out I have never seen the 1933 King Kong. So it was a completely new experience to me. I guess as a kid I had only seen the 1970s remake, which the one thing I remember about it is that is where I learned the phrase deja vu. As a kid, I didn't know what it meant. It appears in the movie, sort of relating the Twin Towers to like the tallest mountain on Skull Island. And yeah, I learned something. But this is a far superior movie. I really enjoyed not just like the charming stop animation of it, but I think the acting was just excellent in this. I'm a sucker for old movies, so maybe that has something to do with it, but I ate it up. And as a bonus, my son came in and started watching it with me, and he was hooked, and that's really nice to see. So we got to bond over a few King Kong movies, especially when Kong was fighting the dinosaurs. It's a little weird in the 1933 version of the dinosaurs that are attacking the humans who tried to sort of film Kong on Skull Island to make a movie. But so you have like a lot of herbivores just like ripping men apart. But that's also charming in its way. The Son of Kong, which is like were also released in 1933, was a really rushed sequel. If I understand things correctly, the movie itself was only an hour long, and it was fine, but it had a very abrupt, sudden ending that was not like foreshadowed in any way. It was actually really sad and tragic. So I do recommend it anyway, just because it's such a small investment. But just be aware, you're not getting King Kong with the Son of Kong. Excuse me, I've been losing my voice due to allergies, so I have also watched the Toho movies, or the movies that were made in collaboration with Toho. And so that would be the third and fourth King Kong movies that were released. That is King Kong vs. Godzilla, which was a childhood favorite of mine. I had this on VHS, and then I had it on DVD by itself. And then when I got this collection at Walmart, which might still be in your $5 bin at Walmart, I have another copy now. The original Battle of the Kaiju, and this was a marvelous film. It's not like a perfect film. This is the 1973 American edition of the movie. It was a really, did I say 73? 63. It was originally released in 1962 in Japan, but they made it a sort of a more Americanized version of it with a lot more English-speaking parts and like news segments and stuff. And that was released the next year in 1963. And then King Kong Escapes, which is a weird movie. There's this like evil scientist named Doctor Who. No, not that Doctor Who, but weird Japanese man who wears a cape. And he has constructed this giant metal gorilla sort of based on Kong. And he's having it mine this mineral X, which is like a substitute for uranium, but apparently way more powerful and can create the most potent bombs. And so the robot fails and is sort of like it can't handle the radiation of Compound X, and so Doctor Who decides he's going to capture King Kong, the original, and then lure him in and hypnotize him with this funky little hat that he has, and give him verbal directions. And I guess it's just sort of assumed that Kong knows English or Japanese or whatever the original language is, depending on your region. And he just like obeys orders until he breaks loose. And then he swims from the North Pole, where they were mining chemical or compound X or whatever they call it, X, where they're mining X in the North Pole, and he swims to Tokyo of all places, which is one heck of a swim, and he starts wreaking havoc. And so they release this Mecha Kong, which I believe, if I have my timeline straight, actually predates Mecha Godzilla. So Mecha Kong and Kong fight, and like there's a winner. Who is it? I don't know, but you probably can guess. So those 4 movies I watched. Oh, and I'm gonna continue my celebrations throughout the weekend and the final couple days of the month, because why not? It's fun. And I'm going to watch for the first time the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong. This came out like right after he worked on Lord of the Rings. But this movie might actually take me the rest of the month to watch. It's just notoriously long. And it's PG-13, and I don't know, based on the content, it might just be because of like scary imagery, but I don't know if I can watch it with my son around. So like if I have to watch it at night, I am more of a morning person, so I tend to fall asleep really easily in the evening nowadays. It might take a few sittings to get through it, but I am determined, because I heard it's actually quite good. So those are the movies. And I don't have access to more of the movies other than some of the newer ones. No, honestly, I have no interest in going to the theater to see the new Godzilla and Kong movie. So I'm just going to wait for that to release on Blu-ray or DVD or whatever, and just watch it later. But I did read the novelization of the 1933 movie. This is a novelization by Delos W. Lovelace. And this is a banger of a book, to be honest. I almost liked it more than the movie. It really just depends on if you're craving to watch a movie or if you're craving to read a book. But I think the story works a little bit better in this version. Not only do they get rid of the weird Asian racial stereotype in this, which this was released like before the movie came out as sort of like a promo for the movie. So I don't know when that change happened where in the movie they're like, we're going to have this Chinese man be very stereotypically Chinese. They're still both good characters who take that role, but it's a little less like, ugh, in this book. So they also make a little bit more sense of the dinosaurs they use for Kong to fight. In the first movie, like I said, there's a lot of herbivores, so you have a Stegosaurus and a Brontosaurus, or what they thought was a Brontosaurus at the time, just ripping men apart. And in this one, the Stegosaurus is just replaced by a beast, and there are a few dinosaurs, but I think one was replaced with a Triceratops, which a Triceratops in my mind is more like a rhinoceros in his how it would act. So like it makes sense. It's very territorial and it's just trying to gore people. But in both this book and the actual original movie, I was actually really surprised at the body count. I don't know why. I was not expecting it to be as gruesome as it was, but these are a little hardcore. In this one, though, there's also like giant bugs, like giant spiders and stuff, just like lurking and pouncing on men who have fallen because Kong has knocked them off a bridge. And it's just, in my mind's eye, it's way more horrifying. So this was really, really enjoyable. And it's the only giant ape book that I currently own. So that's the only book I read for the event, but it was, what a book it was. Yeah. I also went through this magazine, King Kong vs. Godzilla. This is what I originally purchased when I was on a book buying ban to celebrate the month. But this book mainly goes through the movies. At first King Kong, then Godzilla. and then it goes through like some articles about radiation and just our inspiration taken from giant animals. But the highlight for me is the old promo art. Like this hand-drawn art is really good. You have a lot of good movie stills if you just sort of want to nostalgically flip through this. But some of these old ads are just, I assume that's from an ad. I just love that art. So it's really good. The downside with this book, or this magazine rather, is that I think they sort of assume that you're a Kong expert already, which is a weird assumption for something like this where you sort of want to catch the audience up on King Kong and Godzilla. But they spoil like all of the movies in it. So I have not seen every King Kong and Godzilla movie, but now I kind of just know how a lot of them end. But, I mean, I guess it's not really a surprise how they end, but, you know, please don't spoil the movies for me. Beyond that, I also sort of paged through The War That Time Forgot. This is a DC Showcase album, but the actual name of the comic is called Star Spangled War Stories. This is a comic that was released in the 60s, where the United States Army is fighting against dinosaurs, and like there's like also a recurring group of people called the Suicide Squadron, who like take like the most dangerous secret missions and can't talk about them. But in issue, what is it? In issue 110, the image I showed you here, this was released in 1963, which is the same year as the American King Kong vs. Godzilla was released. This came out in September, whereas that movie came out in the summer. So I'm wondering if there was some influence here, because in this one, they hear rumors about a giant ape who saved humans, like prehistoric humans, from the dinosaurs. And as the army is running out of ammunition and bombs to their reasons for going to this island are pretty nebulous. They just want to look at some like old carvings and stuff. They run into the giant ape, and the giant ape saves them from dinosaurs. For a while, he starts struggling against so many, and so us being Americans, we just send a missile and blow them all up, and the giant white ape dies. So that's the most American thing we could probably do, is just blow it up and ask questions later. Then in the next issue, they say they feel bad about it. So they go back to like make sure that the giant ape is actually dead. Maybe it escaped. Excuse me, I don't normally want to drink on camera, but I am losing my voice. So they go back and they do confirm his body is there. They're like, oh man, we feel really bad about what happened. And then they get attacked by more dinosaurs. And lo and behold, another giant white ape appears. I don't know if they're just trying to retcon the previous issue because people had a problem with like us just sort of leading the giant ape to die, which is kind of a theme in all of the King Kong books. But he comes back and he's like duking it out with Tyrannosauruses and other nebulous not dinosaurs. And he comes back throughout like the rest of this volume at least. So they're like, oh, this is hot. We need to have more giant ape. And I couldn't agree more, because the stories aren't all that well written. So at least give us some variety in what people are facing or encountering. So that was interesting. But finally, two more things really. One thing I am going to rewatch is The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. This is a documentary. This is actually the reverse of the DVD case. We have like a nice option to flip it around. And here's the original cover. This is about the arcade game Donkey Kong and some players' obsession for getting the high score. This was released a while ago, and these scores have long been replaced. But I think it was released in like the mid 2010s or something. I can't see it on the cover right now to make sure, but this is a very fun documentary, especially if you have some sort of nostalgia for the Donkey Kong video game. The old arcade cabinet, my experience with it was from going roller skating, and our roller skating rink had a bunch of arcade machines that became very nostalgic to me. One being Donkey Kong, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, obviously, which is one of the greatest arcade cabinets to exist, and Pac-Mania, which is like a 3D Pac-Man, which I love. Not many people do, but I love it. So, yeah, I'm going to not only watch this documentary, but I'm going to play some of the original game via emulation on my computer. And I also might expand that to playing the Donkey Kong game that appeared on the Game Boy, which was, it's just called Donkey Kong again, but like they expanded it and gave you various objectives. It's not just like the same 4 boards of doing the same things over and over again to try to get a high score. Like there's an actual like storyline, which is really fun. It's a really fun game. But yeah, so that's the video games I'm going to play this weekend. And finally, something I've been really big into since the 2020 pandemic is tabletop board games. And this is Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island. And this is a game that can be played solo. Solo games, if you're unfamiliar, like they're less of a competitive thing and more like a puzzle in many cases, where you try to sort of play the odds. In this game, there's like a narrative storyline for each scenario that you play through. So you try to do things to play the odds to survive on this island and complete the objective. So the introductory scenario is like you're marooned on this island after a shipwreck, and you have to gather food and explore and survive and gather a bunch of wood to create a bonfire to signal a ship that's supposed to pass by in 5 days. So you have to like survive for that period of time and then light the bonfire. But so many things can go wrong. The island is constantly trying to kill you, and this game is really known for its like difficulty. It just wants to kick you in the teeth. So winning it feels really good when you do. There are other scenarios that are released for this game. You get several in the box, and then there are more that you can purchase additionally to breathe new life into it. So there's like a cannibal island. There's a volcano island where you're trying to escape this volcano that's just eating away at the island. There's a scenario where you're trying to save this woman on the beach who's just stuck off on like this rock outcropping far on. You have to like build some sort of raft to save her before she starves to death. It's really fun, but there is one scenario that is thematic and sort of applies to this event, and that is the exciting adventure of King Kong Island. So this is basically recreating King Kong, the original 1933 film. You are a group of Hollywood filmmakers who want to make a movie about a large ape that lives in the unexplored island. Unfortunately, this task turns out to be much more difficult than originally anticipated. Excuse me. And members of the film crew begin to die. Can you protect the crew, film the beast, and escape the island alive? Let the horror begin. And so you have to like build tranquilizers out of the things you find on the island. You have to build a giant cage, and then you have to sort of capture Kong and film him as like an action, and then escape alive. And that is a lot harder than it sounds. One of the nice things about this board game is the fact that I have a lot of expanded material for it, so you can sort of mix and match and sort of create your own weird narratives to go along with it. So one of the cool things about this game is like there's a bunch of cards that you get and you play every turn, and it sort of narrates something that happens when you're on the island. So like at one point you can find like a bunch of berries, and if you decide to eat them, that's free food for you. But that card goes back into the deck, and when you pull it again, you get the consequence of that. So you have to sort of gauge whether or not you want to risk like maybe like some stomach issues down the line from eating these berries versus like you have immediate food, which is very scarce and very valuable. But with some of the extra decks that I bought for this game that was recently crowdfunded on GameFound, is that I can have the King Kong scenario on a zombie island. So suddenly zombies are trying to tear you apart, and you're trying to film King Kong and capture him. There's also another set of cards that allow you to play with a bunch of pirates being on the island, and so forth. Things like that just add a little bit more to the game, adds a cool narrative, and it's just really fun activity. I really like games that allow you to mix and match and make it your own, while still presenting a challenge. So this is how I'm going to end my April, and how I plan on celebrating Giant April. So what are your plans? Have you been reading anything related to Kong? You don't have to limit yourself to April if you haven't done anything yet. It's really good time. It was really helpful for me in sort of getting over my own issues and just leaving them at the door for a while. So I really appreciate Roy for creating this event, and I will talk to you later. Thank you.